Veterans who experience a traumatic event may have initial feelings of fear, anger, confusion, or PTSD.
Author Robert Chambers is here to talk about his new book, Hidden Wounds, which tells the story about a woman battling with PTSD. Welcome to the show, sir. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Writing a book is no small feat. So what was your sort of inspiration behind putting this together?
I've written as a matter of stress relief for years. And one of the stresses was the Plainfield tornado, which I was a surgeon a quarter mile from where the tornado went up. And we were the primary hospital. We took 471 casualties between 15:05 and
Wow.
2300, 3:05 and 11 p.m. And that beat us all up, beat up the people in the field even more, obviously. So that was my primary. And I started wondering, with all of this talk about PTSD, it would be very easy to write something about the counseling, the drugs, and the public response that maybe 6 people in the business might read. The other challenge, so the challenge was to write something that the public would read, which would help them understand what to expect with people who have PTSD, the worst of which are combat warriors, and would have some idea how to respond. After certainly World War II, everybody shut up. The veterans did not want to talk about their experiences in the battlefield, and everybody respected their privacy. Worst thing. You know, you have to listen for their cues, and you have to be very careful not to sort of be in your own life, kind of listen for what they're saying, and pick up on it. You may get an opportunity to speak 4 or 5 sentences that day. It's a process over weeks, months, years. But it is very clear now that, especially with things like the Wounded Warrior program and so on, that if one engages these people in the conversation of their experience, that is helpful to them in dealing with the PTSD.
So is that one thing that the book's going to teach you? I know it follows the path of a woman. She was a Canadian combat engineer. Now she's kind of making her way into the, you know, normal, everyday, what she wants life. Mm-hmm. So is that what we're going to pick up, one of those things?
Yes, and you touched on one of the things that a lot of the veterans have trouble with, and that is re-engaging civilian life, especially if they've done 2 or 3 contracts or retired. Friends of mine have experienced that, and so that's incorporated in the book as well as the PTSD issues.
Wow. Well,
I think what's fascinating, there's a great piece on 60 Minutes over the weekend. This was geared more towards kids, because PTSD is not just for vets. But
no.
One of the things that was interesting is that you see people that may act out, and you don't really understand why, and many of us go, what's wrong with that person? And what they're changing the language to is what happened to you. And it's giving these people to express, like, hey, you don't know, like, for you. I mean, I can't imagine what you saw in the hospital that day. So walk us through, you know, what we get out of reading this book.
What you get out of is the realization that these people are not, as you said, acting out. It's a response of their disease. Their disease is very legitimate, very real. And as you said, it's not just the combat veterans, not just the veterans. It's police, fire departments are right up there, rescue workers, medical, nursing. One group that's, until you think about it, you don't really realize, and that is the social workers. They see an awful lot of really bad stuff, and it's very hard for them to get through their career without being damaged. And so, and children who have been in bad situations, adults that have been in bad situations. PTSD is actually a group of diseases. It's not one disease, and that's one of the things that's brought out in the book. I don't want to make the book sound too technical. It's not. It's a story. It's a romance. And what's interesting is the protagonist, the Canadian combat engineer, is both the protagonist and the antagonist, because her PTSD is the antagonist. The guy in the story is not the antagonist. The guy really represents the public because he's this geeky, nerdy civil engineer guy that knows absolutely nothing about the military, PTSD, or women for that matter. And he's kind of has to learn the whole thing. So he kind of represents the public learning as you go along.
Ah, I like that. It must have been cathartic for you as well to write this.
To some extent, yes. I said that I started writing years ago just as a stress reliever, creating an alternate universe. So there's a bunch of stuff that I've written. This is the first major piece published, so other than technical stuff.
All right, stay with us. Much more about this book coming up right after this.